This training video is brought to you by K-Alliance. K-Alliance provides high-quality instructor-led training videos for desktop, IT, and soft skills. Visit us online at www.kalliance.com to sign up for your free 7-day trial. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and we hope you learned something new. Real videos, real learning, real success.
When you're working inside of Excel, you want to make sure your page layout is perfect, because creating signs for a garage sale is very different from creating a presentation for the board of directors, right? So let's take a look at how you can have perfection for no matter what you're doing, whether it's a garage sale sign or the board of directors meeting. I just opened up Excel here, and what I want you to focus on is I have, it's like a title here for expenses in the yellow background, and then I just have this blue box drawn on the slide, or excuse me, not the slide, but on the Excel spreadsheet. And what I want you to notice is as we work inside of the page layout, how we can quickly change things just by changing the themes. So on the tab here, page layout, on the page layout ribbon, we have this group referred to as themes. And when I drop down the themes, you can see some that are listed, and remember you always have scroll bars to check it out. And oh look, it automatically changed because I rested my mouse on something. But as I go to the different themes, look how sometimes the color is changing, sometimes it's not. So the background of expenses hasn't been changing, but the box has. And the fonts, look at the font on the word expenses versus the font on the word expenses. So as I'm moving through the different themes, the themes have different colors, they have different fonts, and they have different effects. So what you might discover is that you find a theme that you really like. There's something perfect that you really enjoy. Well, let me click on expenses. I want to show you why this one's not changing. I'm going to go back to home and drop down this paint bucket. The standard colors do not change. So if you create a color scheme, or excuse me, not a color scheme, if you create a fill from one of the standard colors, they do not change when you go in and you change the theme. Anything up here in the top in the theme colors, these will change. So let me go ahead and choose, let me just choose this light grayish blue color. Okay, now let me go back to the page layout themes and watch what happens now in the background. You see now how the background of expenses is also changing when the other colors are changing. It's because of the way the color was selected. So you can go through the different themes and you can find a look you like. Now let's just, let's go down and grab this one, and then let's stop on this one. Maybe you kind of sort of like things here, but not 100%. So back up in themes, you have color choices. Now let me show you where these color choices are coming from. So let me choose, let's see one that's really obvious here. Let's grab these yellows and oranges across here. So the yellow and orange theme. I'm going to go back to home and pour down our paint bucket. See the same colors across here? Okay, now let's go back to page layout, go back to colors. Let's pick one in the greens and the blues. We'll go back to home, pour down the paint bucket, see the greens and the blues. So when you choose the color scheme is going to change the theme colors that are available for you for the painting when you put color into something. Let me go back to page layout. You can also go in and choose different fonts. And the fonts, this is just going to be the default font. There are other ways to choose fonts. I don't tend to use it here in the theme, but you can select it in the theme because then that way you can be consistent among your themes. And folks, here's one of the major reasons to use themes. It's so that each sheet, if you have multiple sheets in your Excel workbook, will be consistent. But also, what if you had an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, and a PowerPoint slideshow? You can have the exact same theme in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, so you don't have to stop and think about, oh my gosh, what color, what font, what did I use? You just create a theme and you can use that exact same theme, and then everything in your presentation, whether it's your Excel spreadsheet, your Word document, or your PowerPoint slideshow, they all will match. Now the other thing is the effect. If you watch the box that's on the screen, the box is going to change when you select a different effect. So once again, you could get the look that you're in search of, because I guarantee you a look like this that's called grunge texture is not going to be as effective for something that you want very formal and fancy as something that's more subtle. So as you go through the different looks, you can then choose whichever effect you want. So you can choose just a generic theme that's there, or you can create the effects, the fonts, and the colors that you want to create the perfect theme so that the look you have is very formal or not, right? Whatever the look is that you're in search of. So that's the first section here on the page layout, are the themes. You also have the page setup. And the page setup allows you to set the margins on the printable sheet of paper. So by default, you have normal here, you have wide, you have narrow, and a lot of people just choose wide because it's an inch all the way around. Now that inch is the non-printable space on the piece of paper. But you can also create your own, so you could choose custom margins, and you can go in here and you can set up just by changing. I'm just changing the top. Here, use the down arrow to make it smaller, use the up arrow to make it larger, right? So you can customize exactly the amount that you want for your margins. And also, there's this great feature here for center on page, whether you center horizontally or vertically. And if you look in the sample here, it would simply center horizontally or center vertically on the printed sheet of paper. So if you don't have a full sheet, sometimes you do want to set up the way the page setup works. And then I'll go ahead and say OK to that. Visually, the only thing that changed on the screen is this little dotted line showed up here between J and K, just to show us where the actual page break would be. So that lets you know that, uh-oh, you need to do something a little differently there, because part of your box will be on one page and part of your box will be on the other page. You also have the orientation, whether you want to print in portrait or landscape. Let's switch it to landscape, and then our page break switches out here, right? And the size of the piece of paper. Now for most of you who work only in the US, you're going to just use 8.5 by 11. But if you're working with other countries, they do use different sizes of paper, and this can be very effective to make sure that your spreadsheet is printing the way you expect it to print on the piece of paper that you're utilizing. We're going to go ahead and leave 8.5 by 11, but you can change it. You absolutely can. I also want to talk real quickly about the sheet options. Now let's say that everything that you wanted was right here in this expenses line and inside of this box. You don't want these grid lines showing, so turn them off. Under grid lines, you just say, turn these off. I don't need those. I don't need to utilize them, so I just won't make them available for me. And you may not use the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. The headings, you can turn those off as well. Now, you have the print empty, so they're not going to print either. But if you want them to print, then you just turn it back on. So now my grid lines would print, but I don't see them on the screen. Or let's do it this way. Now they don't print, nor do they show on the screen, but here, the grid lines would show on the screen, but the grid lines won't print when you print the sheet of paper. So it's all personal preference how you want to work and what you want the page layout to look like once the page is actually printed. So when you very first start your workbook, I would recommend coming into this area, setting up your margins, setting up your orientation, setting up the page size for your paper. Sometimes I have to get started a little bit to figure out what theme I want, but set the theme the way you want it, and then that way you can be consistent by choosing the same theme in other sheets, other workbooks within PowerPoint, Word, and other Microsoft applications, and then decide what you want to do with the headings and the grid lines. Because sometimes you absolutely do not need the headings to print or to view, nor do you need the grid lines to print or to view. So go into page layout and set it out, so set it up so your page is laid out the way you'd like it to be. It's time for another pop quiz. What items may be changed when modifying themes via the page layout ribbon? A, colors, fonts, and effects. B, only fonts. C, paragraph spacing and fonts. D, colors and background effects. The correct answer is A, colors, fonts, and effects, because when you go to the themes via the page layout ribbon, those are the three you can change: colors, fonts, and effects.
We hope you enjoyed this preview video. Please click on the like button below if you did, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to visit us at www.kalliance.com to sign up for your free 7-day trial today. You could learn a lot in a week.